This Shabbat we begin reading the second of the books of the Torah, the book of Shmot, the book of Exodus, and it deals with the birth of Am Yisrael, our people Israel, emancipation from Egypt, and the journey to Sinai. It also talks about the first leader, our Redeemer, Moshe Rabbeinu, and the birth of a leader, the moment when God turns to him and charges him with the responsibility of leading the Jewish people out of Egypt. And where does that happen? Moses is tending to the sheep of his father-in-law Yitro, and he sees a strange phenomenon. There's a bush that is burning, but it doesn't become consumed by the fire, and he's drawn to this. And then he hears the voice of Hashem, Shal na'alecha ma'al raglecha, take your shoes off, Moses. Ki hamakom asher ata omed aleh, because the place on which you're standing is holy. Why did Moses have to take his shoes off? Well, generally, human beings wear shoes. We wear shoes because we need to insulate ourselves from the terrain. There's sharp rocks, there's dirt, there's mud. There are all the things that we might have to encounter that we can be better protected from by wearing good shoes. Morally, symbolically, it implies that human beings aspire to matters of the mind, intellectual pursuits, emotional elevation. And sometimes we are involved in environments that are not conducive to that. The earth, symbolizing that which is lower, the mundane, the physicality, gets in the way of the more sublime, elevated human pursuits. So we wear shoes to disconnect ourselves from the terrain. But then there are moments of holiness. In the temple, the holiest place in the world, the Kohanim served barefoot. They took their shoes off. Because that environment of holiness was not an environment in which there was concern of how we would be affected by the physical terrain. That was an environment in which there was influence to the physical terrain. The holiness was so powerful that it was able to impact even on the physical environment. We did not want the Kohen to be insulated from the physical. We wanted him to be able to impact with the holiness that he encountered even on the physical elements. And Moshe Rabbeinu stood in this moment where God is saying to him as a leader, you have a capacity to turn the place in which you stand into a place of holiness. And if it's a place of holiness, then you do not need the shoes that normally insulate you from the world. You have the capacity to make the difference in the world. You're going to change the world. You have a capacity to make that difference on the terrain in which you are standing. And also sensitivity of leadership. What happens if a leader is so isolated and insulated from the environment in which he's working, doesn't sense and feel what people are dealing with or grappling with, the pain, the suffering, the difficulties, the challenges? What happens if a leader is so removed from the environment, he doesn't feel the terrain where people are dealing and grappling with difficulties in life? A leader needs to be sensitive to what the terrain is presenting to one's flock. We need to be aware of what they are contending with so that one can be the leader in tune, involved, impacting on every single one of our flock so that they too can be elevated and lifted into a place of holiness. Sometimes we need shoes to protect ourselves from the environment. Sometimes we need to take them off so that we can realize what a role we can play in being an influencer, in being a catalyst of change to the environment, in making that place, the place in which we stand, a place of holiness. Have a beautiful Shabbos.